Hello. I've got a intermediate volume 2. The volumes are not meant to be done in any order, I don't think. They're just the order in which I'm recording them, so I kind of keep track myself. I don't know, maybe at another time I'll try to better organize and rename them. Just trying to get something done now. And a lot of times I'm just, say I'm going to make 4 or 5 videos and I never get to them. And anyways, today I want to talk about piece value. Okay, so let me get some pieces on here. Let's do 2 of those, and let's get some other pieces out here. Let's just do starting position. Okay, and so this is just a general trade strategy, and if you want to know the relative worth of a piece in general, now this is not the be all end all. It's just a starting guide for, hey, do I want to do this trade? Is this a beneficial trade for me? Now, if it's a knight for a knight, that's easy. Or a pawn for a pawn, well, it's not easy, but it's you're getting, at least piece-wise, you're getting equal value if you trade a piece for a piece. It's the same. But what if we're not? So points, I'm going to give you points values for these. The points mean nothing. There is no value you can't say, oh, I'm up 5 points, so I'm going to win this game. Not necessarily. The points are just a gauge for you to know whether you're ahead or behind, and whether a trade is good or bad for you, or to minimize damage on a trade. So maybe sometimes you're going to have a bad trade, but you could have a catastrophically bad trade or just a pretty bad trade. So point values are just a general guide. They're not the be all end all, because there is another very important aspect of chess called position. And sometimes position can be trump everything and be the most important thing, because if you get checkmate and you give up a queen but you get a checkmate on the next move, who cares how many points you're down, right? You just won the game. So points are useful, and they're helpful to know whether a trade is good or bad, and to know whether you're kind of winning or losing. But the more subtle, harder part is the position. When is a good position? When am I in a good position? When am I in a bad position? I'll try to help with that too later on in other videos. But it's something I kind of grapple with myself all the time. When is this position better than others, and why? And the why is super important, because then you can draw that into your future playing and say, hey, I've seen this similar position. This is good or this is bad. And so position and piece-wise. So I'm going to try to handle the piece when you're up in pieces anyways. And so it's a good intermediate idea. So I call pawns worth 1 point. So that's just kind of our standard 1 point thing. Every pawn is worth 1. Okay, we next go up, and the next highest is 2, this and this. These are both worth 3. Okay, so 1, 3, 3. Well, which one's better? Some people will like the knight better. Some people like the bishop better, depending on the style of play. In a closed game where there's a lot of clutter, so to speak, on the board, knights, because they can hop around. But in an open game, some say bishops are a lot better because they have the free reign of the diagonals. So 3 and 3 is what that is. So each of them worth 3. Now rooks will stand apart at 5. Maybe I'll put these at this. That's cool. 1. Oh, maybe I go this here. Move these out of the way. Move them out of the way. 1. Oh, it can't go to 1. All right. Anyways, 1, 3, 5. Right? 1, 3, 5. That's what those are worth. These rooks are worth 5 points each in our point scheme. And then the queen is worth 9. Although I kind of say almost 10. So if you want to call it 9, that's what most people say. I kind of say 10. Once again, it depends on other parts of the game, but 9 or 10 points. So the safe bet's probably 9. If you love the queen, like most people do, maybe you might value it at 10. If it's the end of the game, I would definitely value it higher. So when the game's more open, the queen is a juggernaut, and she can completely decimate the other player if you have a queen and they do not at the end game. I mean, she's just with the ability to move in any direction, any number of squares is enormous. So there's it is 1, 3, 3, 5, and this is 9 or 10 depending on how you value it. Okay, so let's just say 9, and we'll say 5, 3, 3, and 1. So what about the king? Well, the king doesn't count because you can't trade the king. The king, so each person always has a king on the board. It's there is no value for a king because they're not involved in trades. Once you trap the king, it's over. So the king doesn't really have a point value. So now if you're doing a trade, so suppose you want to trade a bishop, the black bishop, for this knight. Okay, that's point-wise, that's even. Okay, that's an even trade. 3 points for 3 points. What if we wanted to trade under this system 1 bishop for 3 pawns? Under this, and once again, it's not the be-all end-all, but this bishop for 3 pawns, that seems pretty similar, right? Because 1, 2, 3, and that's worth 3. Oh, you look good in the... Daddy, do you know I'm a goblin cage? It's a nice apron. You cooking? Yeah. Yes? I'm for this goblin. Oh, so 3 points and 3 points. And we have, this is worth 5. So what if we did this rook for, say, a knight and 2 pawns? 3, 4, 5, 5. Pretty fair deal, right? How about this and this for this? White comes out on top using our pointing system, right? 3 plus 3 is 6. That's 5. So if we traded this rook for these 2 pieces in an exchange, it would be close to equal, but the white would but the black would come out on top a little bit because the black only gave up 5 points for 6 total that it collected. So you kind of see how this goes. But what if it took both of these pieces for both of these pieces? Then it would be 6 to 6. So you always kind of want to keep more points and then you give up in a trade, generally speaking. Like I said, it's not the be-all end-all, but it's a good start to strategy to whether or not you want to do a trade or not. And as I said, position matters greatly, but you got to start somewhere. So piecewise is an easy kind of idea to try to handle what is worth it. Now, queen, very valuable, 9. So what if black wanted to give up, say, and this is, I don't want to say anything's typical, but like 2 rooks for a queen. I've seen that come up, not often, it's not the right word, but several times. So 2 rooks for a queen. That's fairly straight up. That's fairly even. I would say white, in many cases, got the better of the deal because you took 10 to give up 9. But once again, I said queen can sometimes be worth 10. So it's almost even as it is right there, too. So pretty even exchange. Black or white may come out on a top just a little bit. But I would be loath to give away my queen, and depending on the situation, even for 2 rooks. Now, I would and have, but, the queen is very valuable. Now, you could say the queen for, say, what about these? I've never really seen a 3 for 1 exchange too often, but you could say here, here, and say, what about here? What about these 3 for the queen? I would prefer to have the queen rather than those 3, but depending on the situation, it's pretty even. It's pretty even swap there, right? So, and that's how we do these swaps, or it's a general guide to whether you want to do a trade or not. These point values give the relative worth of a piece. So keep that in mind. And when I talk about making a game smaller, it helps for that. So when I say make a game smaller, if you are up, suppose we are up 5 points. Suppose I got rid of their rook. Boom, gone. And now suppose we're up 5 points. Well, now if I can make even trades, when you get to the end, if you have 5 points, remember that rook and the king versus the king intermediate drill. If you get it down to that, that's a win. So when I say make the game smaller, and I'll go over this more again in another video, if you're up points, a significant amount of points, and you make the game smaller, that small of advantage or medium-sized advantage becomes huge, because if you do even trades the rest of the way out and eliminate all their other pieces or close to all their other pieces, your advantage becomes huge. So turn small advantages and accumulate small advantages, and then you have the choice to try to make the game smaller through even trades. And it really puts the opposition in a lot of pressure and a lot of problems when they're willing to do even trades because they're up, and you really don't even want to do an even trade because you've got to get some other advantage to recover the loss of whatever things that happened in the earlier parts of the game. So, all right, that is it.